think I got it. So, my name is Braden Reed, and I am starting my new political channel here, and I'm going to name it Eisenhower Republican because I identify as an Eisenhower Republican. So a little background about myself. So I was born in Billings, Montana, and I lived there for like 10 years of my life, and after that I moved to Meridian, Idaho, and I lived there for 6 months. Then I moved back to Montana. I moved to Helena, the state capital of Montana. I lived there for a good 3 years. It was pretty good. And then I moved to St. George, Utah, which is where I'm at right now. I'm planning on moving somewhere else, though, because it's way too hot here. Anyways. So a little bit about myself when it comes to politics is, let's start with, I was born and raised in a Republican family. Yeah. I mean, Montana, what did you expect? I mean, I know that Montana votes for presidents, Republican presidents, but, I mean, local elections like governor and mayor, like, they've always voted Democratic for some reason. I don't know why. I've never understood that with a lot of these Republican states. They overwhelmingly vote for Republicans in presidential elections, but not in the like, they elected the first Liberian refugee guy to mayor of Helena like a few years ago, and that they made history. Like, how great is that? And so I was born and raised in a really conservative family, right? And and during the 2008 election, I was only like, if I'm 15 years old right now. Oh, no, not I turned 16, sorry. If I'm 16 years old now, and in 2008, I was born in 2001. I was 7 years old. Oh, wait, no. I was 3 years old in the first presidential election that I've ever witnessed. So, Bush versus Kerry. Now, I was just the average, like baby. Like, I didn't know anything about politics because I could barely even talk. And I remember, I think there was this one time where my parents were watching the debate and I was like walking around or something. I think so. And, that's out of the way. And the 2008 election came around and I was like 7 years old. Like, and I only saw a few, like, I didn't really recognize a lot of the candidates. Like, I was like, hey, there's a guy in a suit on the screen. Yeah. Like, I was just like, okay, I'm going to vote for this guy for president. And, I didn't know that Obama and John McCain became the nominees. Like, because I was just the average child. I was playing around a lot. I didn't worry about a lot of that. And, the 2012 election came around, and, I was also raised in a Mormon family, and I'm not a Mormon myself, but of course, we overwhelmingly supported Mitt Romney. Like, there was nothing that would change us, but that was back then when I was not that experienced in politics, And even then, I still didn't know a whole lot about politics. Like, I kept hearing the number 47%. Like, I was like, where is this coming from? And then it took me like almost 4 years to realize, oh, he insulted half of the country. Well, no wonder he freaking lost. That guy's a moron, Mitt Romney. And what's even worse is that freaking... And here's what I think about Mitt Romney. He is a massive flip-flopper, okay? I'm kind of glad that he lost the 2012 election. He is not trustworthy, okay? He has flip-flopped on so many issues. Like, like abortion, the economy, healthcare. And by the way, he proposed his healthcare plan he proposed in Massachusetts was pretty much the same thing as Obamacare. And he was like, "Oh no, I'm gonna repeal and replace Obamacare because it's Obamacare. Obama made it." So, like, that was his take on healthcare, which was people were just like, "What? You supported universal healthcare, and your healthcare plan's just like Obamacare. Why would you get rid of Obamacare?" And then people slowly started realizing, he just wants to repeal Obamacare simply because Obama made it. Like that's what most candidates do. They, like, even if they support the same issue, And I didn't even know how the electoral college worked back then. I thought it was vote based on the popular vote. Like, yeah, I was one of those kids. And so after 4 years, I started to get a little bit involved in politics when the 2014 midterm elections came around. And my parents were freaking cheering on the 2014 midterm elections because a lot of Republicans won. They took back the House or Senate or whatever, I forgot. I was like, "Hey, what's going on out here?" And then my dad showed me it, and I was like, "Ooh, this is interesting. I thought there was only a presidential election." And then I got a little bit educated on how politics worked, and that there was the office of mayor, city council, deputy mayor, and then governor and senator. Like, I learned all that afterwards in school because I took a class on, politics a little bit. After that, when 2015 rolled around, that was when the candidates for the presidential election of 2016 were announcing, like, their candidacy, and I didn't know about it. I heard the word Hillary. I was like, "Who's Hillary?" And my dad was like, "Oh, she's a corrupt witch running for president." I was like, "Oh, can I see a picture of her?" And he was like, "No, you'll see her on the news, like always, because mainstream candidates." I saw her. I was like, "Hey, she doesn't look too bad. She looks like a pretty smart person." And then I found out that about her emails and Benghazi and all that crap, and that she's a Democrat. This was back then when I wasn't that educated on politics, and I was overwhelmed. I supported every Republican pretty much, like, for the last 3 years. And then when frickin' Donald Trump announced his candidacy, oh my god, that was when hell broke loose in the political spectrum. There were memes being made. I think when Trump announced his candidacy, that was when, like, the memes of today, like how memes are freaking everywhere, like on the internet. I think it began when Trump announced his presidency. Like, they started making memes about the wall and his hatred of, like, Mexicans, even though he doesn't necessarily hate Mexicans, and that started to come into play with other. Okay, I'm getting off topic. Sorry. When he announced his campaign, a lot of people actually liked the guy because he's not a politician. He's not a Washington insider. That's what a lot of people like. He's a businessman from New York, and he's been a celebrity for a really long time, and he's a pretty smart businessman. That's what I thought, at least back then. And then, all the other candidates announced their run. The only other ones I heard about was Ben Carson and Ted Cruz. Oh, wait, no, was Ben Carson and Chris Christie. That was about it. And then the first debate, the Republican debate, came around, and then it sucked. Like, Trump, okay, this is where I might get a little bit, like, opinion-y, and so when Trump said those things to Rosie O'Donnell, Megyn Kelly was like, "So you call women you don't like fat pigs and dogs or whatever?" And he was like, "Only Rosie O'Donnell." It was pretty funny. It was meme-ish material, yeah. And then after that, people were just like, "Oh crap, this is the presidential nomination we're talking about," and That's pretty sexist to say that, actually. You know? You know, when Trump likes to dodge the sexist thing issue, and he says, oh, people are tired of political correctness, alright? And you know, there's a complete difference between being politically correct and a flat-out sexist, guys. And, yeah, I don't know if it's... I half agree that Trump is a sexist, because, I mean, throughout the campaign, Trump has been caught... If you guys actually watch CNN a little bit, they catch Trump saying a lot of sexist remarks at a lot of his rallies. Like, he insults some women, yeah. And Fox News doesn't show it because, you know, they support Trump, CNN supports Hillary, and, yeah. Sorry, camera shook there. And so, when sorry, I'm itching my leg. And so when the election rolled around, it was Trump versus Hillary. You know, I thought Hillary was gonna win that whole time because, you know, Trump has no experience with foreign policy or politics in general. While she's been a Secretary of State, a senator, a candidate for president, and you know, all these things. And you know, I found out that she was after reading online and after watching a lot of Fox News, I found out that she was pretty corrupt. Like, that's what I thought back then because, once again, I overwhelmingly supported Republicans no matter what. I've changed now, though, and when Trump won the election, I was like, what? How did he win? And I thought Pennsylvania would overwhelmingly support Hillary by like 30 points, because I thought Pennsylvania was like the most liberal state until I saw Maryland. Oh, I know, the District of Columbia. I don't know why the District of Columbia votes Democratic overwhelmingly. I don't know why, but anyway. So after a few months of him being inaugurated, I got really interested in politics, and so I read around online about articles, and you know, I slowly found out that, you know, a lot of what he's doing ain't really gonna be good, okay? You know, I used to believe it when he said that we're going to cut taxes on middle-class families and small businesses. When, I mean, yeah, he did cut taxes on them, but he also cut taxes on people that didn't need it, like billionaires, like himself. In his tax bill, okay, I might get a little bit opinion-y again. This is the tax on taxes, the issue of taxes. And, you know, I used to believe that massive deregulation of the market and stuff would lead to a great economy. And, you know, I used to think that Republicans were the best party for the economy, but, you know, I thought this because my dad grew up in the Reagan years. He was like in his 20s or 30s when Reagan was president, and you know, Reagan had massive economic booms, and I thought it was because of his lower taxes and all of that, but then I found out that was like 3 decades ago. Like, the economy has changed dramatically from 3 decades ago. Another thing I just found out, Reagan, he was not really a tax cutter. Like, he raised taxes or fees on pretty much the essentials that every middle-class person needed, like gas and highway tolls and, you know, groceries, all that crap. And he actually did raise taxes a few times. Income tax. Like, that's what a lot of the public don't know, because the public didn't have the internet back then to educate them on politics. They just heard the phrase, lower the taxes, and they were like, oh, I'm sold, I'm going to vote for you. Like, that's why there were massive, like, landslide elections back then, because a lot of people didn't know, like, the political spectrum that well. And, you know, when Reagan had constant years of debt, undoubtedly, his deficit skyrocketed. And you want to know what else played to his economic boom was his defense spending. And no, it was not for the military. It was not really military spending or / defense. It was a glorified jobs program. That's what a lot of people don't know. it was not for peace through strength, because our military was already powerful enough to do that. It was a glorified jobs program that he hid from the public. That's all it was. And that created millions of jobs because it was for, I don't know, like I'm not that educated. All I know is that it was not his taxes that it wasn't just his taxes that made the economy boom. It was also a lot of other factors. Like it could have been Jimmy Carter, by the way. I don't know that though. You know? And then George H.W. Bush came into office, and then there was a little recession, and then he promised not to raise taxes, and then he raised taxes, and you know, there was still a recession, and people blamed that on Reagan and partially on George H.W. Bush, and that's how Clinton won. You know, and you know what I believe on taxes, I believe that you know, I am a Republican. I'm only identifying as a Republican because I was born and raised a Republican. I don't want to like alienate my family or whatever. And you know, my views on the tax policy, it's pretty similar to Clinton's. Like, I believe that we should raise taxes on the wealthy, like, while lowering it for the middle and lower class, because they're the ones that need the help, not Goldman Sachs millionaires. You know? I also, besides that, there's another thing I support. I support making a tax, and I support adding 3 new tax brackets, by the way, of like 39% on $500,000 to $1 million of income, and then a 44% tax rate on $1 million to $5 million, and then 52% on 10 million or above. Like, you know, if we had the tax brackets like that, then the extra revenue we could use to create glorified jobs programs like Reagan did, like, and boost the economy. Like, for example, we raised, okay, now I'm going to get a little bit into defense. Like, so we increased defense spending by billions of dollars, right? Like, Trump has already increased it by like $300 to $400 billion. And it's not needed because the military industrial complex was already being overspent. The budget was maintained under Obama, even though Republicans love to say, oh, we have a weak military under Obama and all that crap. You know, and let's take a freaking second to look at how else we could have used that $400 billion. That's your taxes, my parents' taxes, my brothers and sisters' taxes, everyone's taxes. That's what it's going to pay for, just more wasteful military spending. And yes, there is massive waste, fraud, and abuse in our budget of military and defense. A lot of the money we spend is going to go to war contractors and into building tanks that will just sit in desert hangars. And the military is even telling us that we don't need more tanks. We need more special forces. We need more ground troops and skilled soldiers. Not more tanks that are just going to roll around and take hits. You know? And there's so much corruption. Like, it goes like this. The military-industrial complex, Congress votes to give them money. They take that money, they give it to the candidates that are in favor of the military-industrial complex, who have the highest chance of winning, and then the process repeats again. Like, yeah, to enrich the contractors and stuff like that, in my eyes. You know, back to what we could have spent the $400 billion on, we could have... First off, we could have fixed the Flint water crisis, number one. We could have repaired our freaking infrastructure, which we really need, our potholes and stuff here in Utah alone. We could have... I don't know if this is true, but we could have possibly had tuition-free colleges. I don't exactly support tuition-free colleges, though, because, I mean, why should someone have to pay for your college education when you should be responsible for that, in my eyes. And we could have importantly, we could have expanded, internet access to rural America, all rural communities of America, like Helena, for example, Wyoming, Nebraska, North, South Dakota, the South, and West Virginia, all these places. We could have expanded it. That would have improved their economies by massive amounts. And we could have done that. We could have made the child health care, that the child's health care policy thing, I forgot what it was, and we could have spent it on building colleges, and we could have spent it on building office buildings where thousands of people can work at. We could have built cities that would have created thousands of jobs, and we could have invested some of the $400 billion in renewable energy. The renewable energy sector is booming here in Utah and pretty much the entire Sun Belt. And that's why Utah's economy is doing so well, because of agriculture too. And yeah. There's so much wasteful spending in our government. Like oligarchies. That's what a lot of our money is going to, and it's not a good thing. And I don't know about this, the last thing we could have possibly funded would be single-payer healthcare. But I'm going to get into that in that topic in a later video. I'm not going to talk about it yet. I'm just going over some of the things I believe like simplified, right? And so yeah. And now for the topic of abortion, I don't know what to think about abortion, honestly. I think that I used to believe that women should only have the right to choose an abortion if their life is being threatened, or like rape or incest, all that. And, that's what I used to believe in when it came to abortion. And now I believe that abortion should just be a choice between the woman or the mom and her doctor. Her doctor can tell her, there's a chance that you're gonna die if you give birth to this baby, and there's a chance that the baby might be disabled or something. Do you want to do an abortion, or would you like to give birth anyway? I think that should be like the choice of the mother, because I don't think a guy or a woman in a suit or a dress thousands of miles away should be allowed to dictate what a woman does with her body. That's not right. America is the place of freedom and democracy, right? And that's my overall view on abortion. I'm pro-choice.